The Social here on TalkSport 2. I'm Jon Jackson, alongside Arsenal superfan and blogger Harry Symeou. And it's been a great season so far for Arsenal. Wins against Crystal Palace, Leicester and Bournemouth, and Fulham coming up at the weekend. And obviously, Harry, what with you looking like Fulham's striker Alexander Mitrovic, it's a big fixture for you. You said that people were texting you just saying please don't score against us this weekend.
I've been getting it. I get it every time Fulham are in the Premier League. I didn't get it last season, but the season before I used to get it as well. Are you related to Alexander Mitrovic? You look exactly like him. I don't even think I do, but do I?
You've got dark hair and a dark beard, and you're a stocky man. That's pretty much it.
Stocky, that's a nice way of putting it.
Oh, yeah, the thing is, right, I can't throw stones from where I am, but no. But I think if you maybe put on the Fulham kit, training kit, walked around beforehand, maybe put on some, big oversized headphones like they do.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah. Maybe I should try it.
Maybe someone would, maybe.
Anyone got a Fulham kit I can borrow?
Yeah, do it for a video. That's Fulham fans. Do it for a video. I mean, John Norman, who's our cricket editor, who's watching England, who are currently bowling against South Africa, 133 for 8 South Africa. He's a big Fulham fan. He's probably got one, but he's quite a slight gentleman, so it's probably like a medium. Don't think it'd fit.
Yeah, no, definitely not. I haven't got into a medium since about 2001.
I've not got into a medium since I was about 6, I don't think. Anyway, undefeated so far. Arsenal are top of the league. What are you thinking about their chances of pushing some of these other teams and maybe even having a run at the title? Is it? I mean, for me, it's too early. Is it too early for you to dream?
I will not get sucked into title talk. It's not happening. You're not going to get that out of me. It's been a great start. It's been a really good start. It's been a really solid start. One of the big problems we had at times last season was scoring goals. We struggled to break certain teams down. We had a striker in Aubameyang who misfired for the first part of the season and then obviously was moved out of the team due to disciplinary issues. We won't go into that again. Alexander Lacazette took over the mantle and he really struggled. He scored 4 Premier League goals last season, which just isn't good enough at a club like Arsenal. So goals were a real issue. We addressed that, bringing in Gabriel Jesus, and obviously he's got off to a great start to life at Arsenal. But perhaps more encouraging than that is the way we're attacking as a team. The fact that Martinelli has really picked it up, that Xhaka and Odegaard are getting into the final third and scoring goals and influencing games. Bukayo Saka hasn't even hit top gear yet, but we're still comfortable, whereas last season we were so heavily reliant on him. And players like Fabio Vieira, who we've spent £35 million on this summer, haven't even featured yet in the Premier League. Emile Smith-Rowe is still to come back as well. He's back but hasn't started a game yet. There's just lots to be optimistic about. And William Saliba at the back has given us lots and lots of encouragement as well. There's just a lot to be pleased about. But I know that the fixtures at the start of the campaign have been somewhat kind to us. Palace away was a difficult game, but Leicester at home, I expected us to win and I expected us to beat Bournemouth. And with a game coming up again at the weekend against Fulham at Emirates Stadium, I expect that run of form to continue.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the next, let's say, 5 games for Arsenal, I think actually, these fixtures are still being very kind to you because, you've got Fulham at home, that's winnable. Then you've got Aston Villa at home. I mean, that at the moment, you wouldn't bet on Aston Villa, would you? Then you've got like the classic fixture from, when I was a kid, not supporting a team that was in the Premier League for a long time, until now. The Man United Arsenal, the old Sir Alex versus Arsene Wenger, that was always, beautifully fiery for me. So that's always the game I look out for. That's coming up first weekend of September. But then you've got Everton at home. Again, you'd say that's winnable. And then, there is the tricky tie as you go back to Brentford. We all know what happened last time Arsenal went to Brentford for the first game of last season. But, I would say that Arsenal have a very good chance there. So looking at those games, other than Man United game, and I only say this not because I think Man United are suddenly amazing because they won that one game, but, once they've got that, there's going to be some kind of bounce, surely. And Erik ten Hag's made big decisions and he'll probably stick with them.
It's not a place that we go and win at either. We never have. We haven't been regular winners at Old Trafford ever. So it's not the kind of fixture that you look at and go, I'm going to read an awful lot into the form here. It's one that for Arsenal fans, I think is still one that we don't really want. We look at and we dread. But the important thing is that Arsenal win the games that they're expected to win and they should win. And given the inconsistent start from Manchester United, from Liverpool even, you can kind of look at it and go, you know what, if we take advantage here, we put ourselves in a position where these games are not must win. And if you take the pressure off of a young side like Arsenal who are developing and growing, then that might be the best environment in which they can thrive. So Yeah, it's all about getting the points on the board that we should, and wins at places like Man United are a bonus for me.
If you win the 4 of those 5 games that I've talked about there, will you then talk to me about title ambitions? Maybe
No,
after Christmas.
No,
Not
never,
even that early.
never.
Right, I want to touch on a couple of players you mentioned just then. Martin Ødegaard, who was a player that I feel like, and tell me if I'm completely wrong here, but he came on loan at the start.
Yep.
And then there was kind of like, are Arsenal going to sign him? And it seemed like there were reports that he wasn't so keen because, when you're playing for Real Madrid, I know he's been on a few loans beforehand, but leaving that club when you've signed as probably a bit too young almost, it's a big deal for him. But I feel like this season now he's got more responsibility and he's really committed. When I watch, I'm just like, he is like, yeah, I'm an Arsenal player, and it's great.
Yeah, and he's been named the club captain as well, which tells you all about what the management think of his commitment levels. When he first came on loan, he started really, really well. And we were shocked because he'd come from having been training but not playing any games. And he came in and he looked really fit and really sharp. And then he picked up an injury and his form just tailed off. And there was speculation as to whether Arsenal were going to make that deal permanent. My understanding of the situation at the time was that Real Madrid were not sure if they wanted to let him go. That Carlo Ancelotti was not sure if he would be okay with moving Martin Ødegaard on without getting further reinforcements in. Arsenal waited, though. They played the patient game and they waited right until the end of the transfer window, maybe a few days before, and got that deal done and brought him into the club. I don't think there was ever any question about Arsenal's wanting of Martin Ødegaard. I don't think Martin Ødegaard was against the move because he's been quoted a million times as saying he needs a home, needs somewhere where he's going to play football and feel loved. But it was that problem with Real Madrid, the price tag. I don't think Arsenal wanted to meet initially what Real were looking for. And they waited till the end of the window and they got it done. But what a piece of business. Brilliant.
I think so. And also William Saliba, who's been at the club for a few years now. And I've seen sort of mixed reactions from Arsenal fans. And, some of these are people I know, and some of them are people I've just seen their opinions online when TalkSport posts something and you sort of get into the comments and then you wish you hadn't. And, he did quite well in France last year. And there was a lot of people saying, well, the players that he's playing with now must be like, well, why wasn't he with us last year? Because they know he's... they know of his quality from the bit of training they'll have done together. But, I mean, it's tricky, isn't it? Because we don't know what would have happened if he'd been in the Arsenal squad. He might not have quite been up to speed.
Yeah.
That time spent in France, may have made him the player he is today. But he's been, from the start, not just a player that's worked his way into the team. He's been in the team and he's been, one of the best players.
Yeah, Arsenal, Mikel Arteta and the people upstairs deserve a lot of credit for the way they dealt with this. I think they've played a blinder here. He came to the club very early on in his career, still very raw. Arsenal mishandled the initial loan spell. So he went back to St Etienne on an initial loan, and then he returned, and Arsenal mishandled the situation then. They should have sent him out on loan. They didn't. So he spent the first half of the season unregistered and at Arsenal Football Club, and he couldn't play. He then went out to Nice and did quite well there. But last season was the big one for me. Marseille, big club, big pressure to perform every single week. And I think that's done him the world of good. People will say, why wasn't he in the squad last season? I don't think William Saliba last season was the player that he is today. And I think his game time would have been limited, in which case the club made the right call by letting him go out there, spread his wings, earn his stripes, and he's come back a superb defender now.
So Tony Cascarino, who's a presenter here, obviously does the weekend sports breakfast or weekend game day breakfast or whatever it's called these days, went out and played for Marseille himself. And he actually said in the week that at Marseille, they don't take losing very well. I mean, no club takes losing very well, but he would probably have learned the expectation, learned to deal with pressure away from the spotlight, which is possibly why he's come in now at Arsenal. And, he's used to going out there going, well, if I don't, we don't contribute to a win today, I'm going to get a load of stick for this. So it's kind of like the mentality is up another level, as you've kind of just said there.
Yeah,
so,
exactly that.
That's been a good deal for him. How much do you think, Arsenal's participation in the Europa League is going to distract them from the league? I mean, Premier League clubs, especially clubs the size of Arsenal, they've got big enough squads now, haven't they?
Yeah, and I think, look, obviously the draw takes place tomorrow, so depending on what that draw looks like, there's a good chance that you get through the group stage making wholesale changes, week in, week out. And I don't mean that disrespectfully to the teams that participate in that competition, but most of the Premier League sides are able to do that. And if you can do that, it shouldn't prove too much of a distraction. At the end of the day, it's an alternative route into the Champions League. So while there are disadvantages to it i.e. the fact that you play Thursday, Sunday a lot, the additional games that you got to worry about, less time on the training field to prepare between fixtures. The plus side is that you have got another route into the Champions League, which is ultimately where Arsenal want to be, and you could win a European trophy. And I do believe, I won't say Arsenal will win the league, but they can certainly win the Europa League.
We can get you on this one, But also, you know, for a club like Arsenal who were in European competition for so many years in a row and then suddenly not, you know, just being in a European competition, I don't think you will ever take for granted.
No, it's an absolute must for a club of Arsenal's size, as Mikel Arteta would call it. It's a non-negotiable.
Okay, good. So we reckon out of those next 5 games, you've got Fulham at home, Aston Villa at home, Man United away, and then home games against Everton. Everton at home and then Brentford away. How many points do you reckon you're going to get from those?
Maximum. Let's do maximum.
Maximum?
Maximum.
Wow, I love that. Very seemingly very positive, but will not be drawn on Arsenal's chances of winning the Premier League.
Absolutely not.
However, maybe the Europa League. I don't know. Anyway, you're listening to The Social here on TalkSport 2. Next up, we're going to turn our attention to a club not doing so well in the Premier League. It's Twitter Corner, and we're going to talk about Steven Gerrard and what's going on at Aston Villa. If you go out of the